Hello everyone. The topic of today's lecture is Construction Engineering Economics. Dynamic Investment Payback Period. We will mainly cover the following four aspects. Overview of Dynamic Investment Payback Period. Application of Dynamic Investment Payback Period method. Advantages and disadvantages of Dynamic Investment Payback Period method. Dynamic Investment Payback Period Overview. Definition. The dynamic investment payback period is the period required to recover the entire investment through the net present value of the project's annual net income, taking into account the time value of money. Principal formula. This is the principal formula. The cumulative net cash flow for each year, discounted to the beginning of the period, using the benchmark discount rate. In other words, it finds the point where NPV net present value equals 0. In the formula, dynamic investment payback period of the technical scheme, net cash flow of the technical scheme in year T, benchmark rate of return. 3. Practical formula. Calculation formula for the dynamic investment payback period. PT equals the number of years until the cumulative net cash flow turns positive 1 plus the absolute value of the cumulative net cash flow of the previous year, the net cash flow of the current year. The calculation formula for the static investment payback period. PT equals the number of years until the cumulative net cash flow starts to turn positive 1 plus the absolute value of the cumulative net cash flow of the previous year, the net cash flow of the current year. Here are the calculation formulas for dynamic and static investment payback periods. The year when the dynamic payback period starts to show a positive value. We can see that the dynamic investment payback period focuses on the year when the cumulative NPV turns positive, whereas the static investment payback period focuses on the year when the cumulative net cash flow turns positive. 4. Criterion for evaluation. Compare the calculated dynamic investment payback period with the established benchmark investment payback period. Here, the benchmark investment payback period refers to the standard set by the state or sector, or it can be a standard determined by the enterprise itself. First, if it's less than or equal to, it indicates that the project or scheme can recover its investment within the required time frame, and thus the project is acceptable. Second, if the project should be rejected. 2. Application of the dynamic investment payback period method. Given the cash flow data for a project C table, calculate the dynamic investment payback period for the project, assuming I self C equals 10% and PC equals 6 years. Given that the project's cash flow statement is provided, and we need to calculate the dynamic investment payback period, our first step is to identify the year when the cumulative net present value NPV becomes positive. To calculate the cumulative NPV, we must first determine the net cash flow for each year, then discount these cash flows to their present values, and finally sum them up to get the cumulative NPV. According to the requirements for calculating the dynamic investment payback period, we have revised the cash flow statement. Let's look at the present value of the net cash flow at the end of the third year, which is 1.127 million yuan. This is calculated by multiplying the net cash flow of 1.5 million yuan at the end of the third year by the present value factor, the cumulative NPV of net cash flow at the end of the third year, which is 4.445 million yuan. is obtained by adding the present value of the net cash flow at the end of the third year, 1.127 million yuan, to the cumulative NPV of net cash flow at the end of the second year, which is 5.572 million yuan. Solution: to calculate the present value of the project's net cash flow, let's refer to this table. Based on the formula, equals year when cumulative NPV becomes positive 1 plus cumulative NPV of previous year net cash flow of the positive year, equals 6 year. The project is feasible. Based on the formula, for calculating the dynamic investment payback period, we need to identify the year when the cumulative net present value NPV starts to become positive. In this case, the cumulative NPV becomes positive in the 6th year. So, we apply the formula by subtracting 1 year from 6, and then adding the absolute value of the cumulative NPV of the previous year, which is the 5th year, with a cumulative NPV of 1.185 million yuan, divided by the net cash flow of the year. When the NPV becomes positive 1.411 million yuan, the calculated dynamic investment payback period is 5.84 years, which is less than the benchmark investment payback period of 6 years, indicating that the project is feasible. Now, let's look at another case. A technical project is estimated to have a total investment of 5 million yuan, with an annual net income of 0.5 million yuan. After implementation, the benchmark discount rate is 5%. Calculate the static and dynamic investment payback periods for this technical project. Solution: for the static investment payback period of this project, P sub t equals I over A equals 500 divided by 50 equals 10 years. In the case, since the annual net income is equal, we can directly divide the total investment by the annual net income to calculate the static investment payback period. The dynamic investment payback period for this project is NPV equals minus 500 plus 50 multiplies by left parenthesis P over A, 5%, right parenthesis, equals 0. Left parenthesis P over A, 5%, right parenthesis equals 10. Consulting the compound interest coefficient table, we find that left parenthesis P over A, 5%, 14 right parenthesis equals 9.8986, and left parenthesis P over A, 5%, 15 right parenthesis equals 10.3797. Using linear interpolation, we get equals 14 plus 10 minus 9.8986 over 10.3739 minus 9.8986 multiplied by 15 minus 14 equals 14.21 years. Next, let's calculate the dynamic investment payback period. Based on the data provided in the question, we can draw a cash flow diagram. The dynamic investment payback period is the point where the net present value NPV equals 0. According to the data given, NPV is 500 plus 50 and multiplied by the annuity present value coefficient left parenthesis P over A, 5%, and right parenthesis. To find when NPV equals 0, we calculate that the annuity present value coefficient left parenthesis P over A, 5%, and right parenthesis equals 10. We can use linear interpolation. Referring to the coefficients of left parenthesis P over A, 5%, 14 right parenthesis, and left parenthesis P over A, 5%, 15 right parenthesis from the table, and then apply the formula to obtain a dynamic investment payback period of 14.21 years. 3 advantages and disadvantages of the dynamic investment payback period method. First advantages, easy to understand and calculate. Provides some indication of capital turnover speed. Third disadvantages, only considers the effects before investment recovery, failing to reflect the situation after investment recovery, and cannot accurately measure the economic effects of the project over the entire calculation period. That's all for this video. Thank you.